I was shortly thinking, because you've mentioned, and I will switch now again gears. And you are right that I will raise the question of diversity. In fact, you're one of the few female CEOs in the aviation industry. So number one question from my end would be, how would you effectively support the diversity within the company? And the second question, it's kind of becoming very personal for me. There are many ladies, young ladies out there who have the skills, who would also have the ambition to climb the career ladder. But at a certain point of time, they start hesitating, in a sense. If I go up, I will not have the chance to, care of family, or the way how the society is expecting them. So they feel pressured by the expectations. What would you tell such young female talents who have the skills, who also want, but they stop themselves in, being afraid of not being able to combine the private and the career life?
Yeah. To your first question, I strongly believe diversity is so much more than male, female. So when I look into diversity in Austrian, we're not just talking male, female, but also your background in terms of nationality, your background in terms of, is there a good mix of ages? Is there a good mix of characters? Is there a good mix of educational backgrounds? All these things. Because I think this is true diversity and not just the male-female thing. I think it's really too much narrowed down. And all of these kinds of diversity are important. To the females, I strongly believe it's not about female versus male. It's about, and you mentioned that, women becoming mothers. Because I do believe, as long as if you're only a female without kids, right? I think your chances have never been better than today. Most of the big companies have raised programs, and when there's quotas out there, and nearly all companies are actively looking for female talents who want to have a career, and so I don't think there's any good excuses not to make a career if you really want it. There's all the opportunities. When you become a mother, I think there it starts to be difficult. But let's be honest, very much because of our countries. I mean, we live we live the idea of family and how we care for families in a very different style than even France is very different, right?
Absolutely agree.
And also the Scandinavian countries are very different, or the US, right? There's just a different attitude and how they approach being a family, and who cares in a family about the kids, and how do you share responsibilities. And I think you can do a lot as a company. So we, for example, we push shared leadership, so that also, and it's not just females, but also male colleagues who want to have more time for their families, do that in part-time, but share, for example, leadership positions. And it's easy, yeah.
Is it working? So how long, when did you introduce the concept of shared leadership?
So that we really have a significant number. It's now a bit more than 2 years. And so far we are super happy, and we would further push that. So that's, for example, something you can do as a company, and not let females down once they get pregnant. But I think it's also really important as a society to move forward and to think differently about having a family. To give you one example, what always is kind of amazing, right? There's this, I'm sure you have heard that before. There's a couple and the first baby comes. And then there's this discussion after 1 year. Oh, now when you go back into your job, all of your salary, dear mother, is then spent on childcare. Why is it the salary of the mother, right? Isn't that a crazy thought? I mean, it's the joint baby of a couple, And why do we think it's the salary of the mother that is spent on the daycare?
It comes back to the mindset.
It is all about the mindset, right? And couples who I know who manage that in a good way, they change their mindset. And I think that's the one thing. The other thing, of course, politics. There has to be better daycare in our countries, but there has also been the acceptance that you're not a bad mother if you use daycare.
I
And
cannot
so
agree more. I mean,
there's still a lot also in our minds which has to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Cannot
there's
agree
not
more
that
as well.
one
Yeah.
simple solution. And I just believe it's a process. And it has to do a lot with the mindset of what's a family and who has to care for a family in our Central Europe countries.
And at the end, of course, having more role models showing that it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And companies, as you rightly mentioned, who offer these opportunities.
Yeah.
So me
Yeah.
in RBI, I need to admit this, as a mother in a management position, I was very happy to have the opportunity by the company
Yeah.
with the facilities offered.
Yeah.
So it's possible,
Yeah.
but one needs to want it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably you gave a little bit of a glimpse into Austrian and culture there. Like, we know Austrian much longer than you are responsible for. So from a state company to strikes, all the discussions you have with unions, and they're like, how would you describe today Austrian, and how do you try to shape the culture of the group into the future, which is challenging to all of us?
Yeah. My focus clearly is to use the very, very good DNA of Austrians' strong core of hospitality and push that to the next level. Because also having a very good comparison to Lufthansa and Swiss in detail, but also to some other brands, I truly believe this is something very special, which is not easy to copy. This kind of warm-heartedness and being close to customers. Also, it's probably a bit easier if a bit smaller than, for example, being Lufthansa. And so this is something I really want to further leverage because, yes, today we're good, but are we at a level where we could be and should be? I think there's a lot of potential. So that's really the core of what we do. And I believe this is not something where you tell the employees be nicer to the customer, but it is something that has to be very deeply rooted in your culture. Just 2 days back, we reviewed in our board meeting our recruiting strategy and recruiting efforts of last year. And so 2 years back, we started to analyze and we said, well, if we want to be a true hospitality company, right, it has to start also there. How do you approach candidates? What's your experience during a hiring process? What's your experience during onboarding? And also when you, for example, in the onboarding phase, we come out of a culture where onboarding was done really just by expert group per expert group. The people didn't meet. And that was very much fostering silos. And I believe this is totally wrong. So we completely redesigned that experience of recruiting, of onboarding, getting people together early. And we can see that in our KPIs. So our ratings of how was your recruiting experience really jumped from, on a scale from 0 to 5, from a 3.7 to a 4.8. I think that it starts. How do you get into a company? The type of people you hire. What's the attitude towards hospitality? Right. When I hire someone, I ask myself, how would I feel if I was invited by that person for a dinner at home? And would I think this person would be a good host? And this is not just for cabin crews, but I believe in general, everyone in a company which wants to be famous for hospitality should have that kind of mindset. And so, of course, we're working a lot on also hospitality. How can we further push that for cabin crews? And they also enjoy that. They want to be good hosts, right? But I think it has to be very broad in the company. And so that's how we try to focus on culture work.
Customer orientation, huh? There's a
I was
bridge
thinking
to have as an
exactly the same. At the end, it's all about the people.
True.
Yeah, who are the face of the company. A last question from my side. Looking through, over the whole professional career of yours, is there the one guiding principle which you would like to share as an advice to our listeners?
I would say be curious, because I think you can only have a good management career if you remain curious, and if you want to understand things, and if you want to understand how everything fits together, and where in a system you have to make changes to make the whole system better. And so I think it's this curiosity to understand complex systems, and that was always something I really liked. But basically, I think curiosity, and always being willing to rethink, right? That's something I believe is really, really helpful. And probably, especially for females, a few days back, I was asked what was the best advice you ever got. Probably it was, don't let anyone tell you how much and how many disadvantages you have in life because of you're a woman. Just do your thing. And so I tried to live that. I was never thinking too much about disadvantages because I'm a woman, right? And so if you don't think a lot about it, you don't feel it a lot. So
I will remember, particularly the second one, because I'm afraid, though it might be a cliche, but I'm afraid it's true that sometimes we overthink.
Yeah.
Just do. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Last one from my side, a little bit of an insight to you. You have an immense workload. I guess your schedule and your week is packed. How do you re-energize? What's your secret that you can share also with the audience here, that you get back your power in order to do your challenging job?
Well, first of all, it's absolutely helpful if you love your job, and I do love my job. So I'm not a big fan of the concept of work-life balance, but it's rather a blending. And I think as long as you're passionate about your job, it doesn't feel every hour like hard work, right? So that is absolutely helpful. Still, recharging is super important, and for me, it's being out in the nature. And this is also why we wanted to live a bit at the outskirts of Vienna, in a more green area, with a garden there, and so that's really being in nature. And whenever I have more free time, I'm out on the waters and go sailing.
Sailing.
Yes.
Raiffeisen Bank International. Make it happen.